Exhibit 8.1, Credit. Anti-IT Nussen slash Flickr slash Attribution 2, Generic CC by 20. Learning Outcomes. After reading this chapter, you should be able to answer these questions. What is strategic analysis, and why do firms need to analyze their competitive environment? What is a SWOT analysis, and what can it reveal about a firm? What makes up a firm's external macro environment, and what tools do strategists use to understand it? What makes up a firm's external micro environment, and what tools do strategists use to understand it? How and why do managers conduct an internal analysis of their firms? What does it mean to compete with other firms in a business environment? What does it mean when a firm has a competitive advantage over its rivals? And what generic strategies can a firm implement to gain advantage over its rivals? What elements go into determining a firm's strategic position? Exploring managerial careers. Laurie Goodman Lampson, Planning Design Research Corporation. Laurie Goodman Lampson is President and CEO of Planning Design Research Corporation, a firm that analyzes work environments to understand how employees work and what kind of spaces and facilities they need to do their best, most productive work. Lampson was hired by Accenture, a consulting firm, to evaluate and improve its location in Houston. Accenture's Houston office was a 3-story, 66,000 square foot building that served 800 employees. 2 Accenture employees are consultants themselves, and they typically spend up to 2/3 of their working time away from the office serving clients. Lampson worked with Accenture Director of Workplaces Dan Johnson and Steelcase, an office furniture manufacturer, to study how Accenture was using its Houston space. Lampson's focus is on gaining a deep understanding of the business and its strategy for success, and then developing strategic workplace solutions that enable those goals. 3. To achieve this outcome, Lampson and Steelcase analyzed employee demographics and expectations, and studied how employees actually interacted with each other and performed tasks in the workplace. Accenture wanted to have a workspace that fostered its corporate goals of worker innovation, collaboration, and flexibility. 4. A photo shows the American General Center, a complex of several office buildings in Houston, Texas. Exhibit 8. 2. American General Center. The American General Center is a complex of several office buildings in Houston, Texas, and home offices for Accenture. Credit. Ken Lunked slash Flickr slash Attribution Share Alike 2. Generic CCBYSA 20. Understanding a firm's strengths is an important step in strategic analysis, and Lampson's focus on supporting those strengths in the workplace environment led to Workplace 2.0, Accenture's reimagined facility. Not only does the new workspace provide better physical and technological support for collaboration among Accenture employees, but Lampson and Steelcase were able to identify opportunities for Accenture to significantly reduce the size of its offices. Accenture saves money by using less space. It was able to downsize to a single floor of 25,000 square feet to serve the same number of workers, and supports worker interaction and engagement by providing a more effective workspace. You can watch a video of this transformation here, https://www.youtube.com watch v equals y40 il y3hjfo. What is strategic analysis, and why do firms need to analyze their competitive environment? Strategic analysis is the process that firms use to study and understand the many different layers and aspects of their competitive environment. Why do firms spend time and money trying to understand what is going on around them? Firms do not operate in a vacuum. They are impacted by forces and factors from inside their organizations and outside in the world at large. Understanding these forces and factors is crucial to achieving success as a business. For example, the growth in the Spanish-speaking population in the United States has led many firms to change the signage in their stores and labels on their products to include Spanish, in order to make their stores easier to shop in and their products easier to identify for this growing market. The external environment is continually changing, and the most successful firms are able to prepare for and adapt to environmental changes because they have done their homework and understand how external forces impact their operations. To react to change more easily and develop products consumers want, managers and consultants engage in environmental scanning, the systematic and intentional analysis of both a firm's internal state and its external, competitive environment. From a local coffee shop to an international corporation, firms of all sizes benefit from strategic analysis. Let's examine some important strategic factors in more detail. The competitive environment. A firm's competitive environment includes components inside the firm and outside the firm. External factors are things in the global environment that may impact a firm's operations or success. Examples are a rise in interest rates or a natural disaster. External factors cannot be controlled, but they must be managed effectively and to understand them so that the firm can be as successful. For example, the unemployment rate will affect a firm's ability to hire qualified employees at a reasonable rate of pay. If unemployment is high, meaning that a lot of people are looking for jobs, then a firm will probably have a lot of applicants for any positions it needs to fill. It will be able to choose more highly qualified applicants to hire and may be able to hire them at a lower pay rate because the employee would rather work for a lower pay rate than not have a job at all. On the other hand, when unemployment is low, meaning that not many people are looking for jobs, firms may have to offer higher pay or settle for lower qualifications to find someone to fill a position. Internal factors are characteristics of the firm itself. To plan to compete against other firms, a firm needs to understand what physical, financial, and human resources it has, what it is good at, and how it is organized. For example, Walmart has a sophisticated IT system that tracks inventory and automatically orders products before they run out. By calculating how long it will take for the new product to arrive and comparing that to the rate at which the product is selling off the shelves, the system orders new product so that it will arrive just as the product on the shelves is running out, so that Walmart stores do not need to have storage space for inventory. All Walmart inventory is on the store shelves, ready to be sold to customers. How does this system benefit Walmart? It does not have to spend money on storing or keeping track of inventory. All products in the store can generate revenue because they are available for customers to buy. And when the system is working optimally, the store never runs out of items customers want. Concept check. Why do managers use strategic analysis? How are internal factors different from external factors in a firm's competitive environment? What is a SWOT analysis, and what can it reveal about a firm? You may already have heard of one very common tool firms use to analyze their strategic and competitive situations. SWOT, which is an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Firms use SWOT analysis to get a general understanding of what they are good or bad at, and what factors outside their doors might present chances for success or difficulty. Let's take a look at SWOT analysis piece by piece, Exhibit 8.3. A diagram shows the major components of SWOT as strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats with their subcomponents. Exhibit 8.3. The components of SWOT attribution. Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC BY 40 license. Strength. A firm's strengths are, to put it simply, what it is good at. Nike is good at marketing sports products. McDonald's is good at making food quickly and inexpensively. And Ferrari is good at making beautiful fast cars. When a firm analyzes its strengths, it compiles a list of its capabilities and assets. Does the firm have a lot of cash available? That is a strength. Does the firm have highly skilled employees? Another strength. Knowing exactly what it is good at allows a firm to make plans that exploit those strengths. Nike can plan to expand its business by making products for a sport it doesn't currently serve. Its sports marketing expertise will help it successfully launch that new product line. Weaknesses. A firm's weaknesses are what it is not good at, things that it does not have the capabilities to perform well. Weaknesses are not necessarily faults. Remember that not all firms can be great at all things. When a firm understands its weaknesses, it will avoid trying to do things it does not have the skills or assets to succeed in, or it will find ways to improve its weaknesses before undertaking something new. A firm's weaknesses are simply gaps in capabilities, and those gaps do not always have to be filled within the firm. SWOT analysis alerts firms to the gaps in their capabilities so they can work around them, find help in those areas, or develop capabilities to fill the gaps. For example, Paychex is a firm that handles payroll for over 600,000 firms. 5 Paychex processes hours, pay rates, tax and benefits deductions, and direct deposit for firms that would rather not have to perform those tasks themselves. A large firm would need to have a team of employees dedicated to fulfilling that task and equip that team with software systems to do the job efficiently and accurately. For Paychex, these capabilities are a company strength. That's what it does. Other companies that do not have the resources to develop this capability or may not be interested in doing so can hire Paychex to do the job for them. Opportunities. While strengths and weaknesses are internal to an organization, but opportunities and threats are always external. An opportunity is a potential situation that a firm is equipped to take advantage of. Think of opportunities in terms of things that happen in the market. Opportunities offer positive potential. However, sometimes a firm is not equipped to take advantage of an opportunity, which is why considering the entire SWOT is important before deciding what to do. For example, as cities are becoming more populated, parking is becoming scarcer. Younger consumers who live in cities are starting to question whether it makes sense to own a car at all, when public transportation is available and parking is not. Sometimes, however, a person might need a car to travel outside the city or transport a special purchase. Daimler, the manufacturer of Mercedes-Benz and smart cars, started a car-sharing service in Europe, North America, and China called Cartigo to offer cars to this new market of part-time drivers. By establishing Cartigo, Daimler has found a way to sell the use of its products to people who would not buy them outright. Threats. When a manager assesses the external competitive environment, they label anything that would make it harder for their firm to be successful as a threat. A wide variety of situations and scenarios can threaten a firm's chances of success, from a downturn in the economy to a competitor launching a better version of a product the firm also offers. A good threat assessment looks thoroughly at the external environment and identifies threats to the firm's business, so it can be prepared to meet them. Opportunities and threats can also be a matter of perspective or interpretation. The Cartigo service that Daimler developed to serve young urban customers who don't own cars could also be cast as a defensive response to the trend away from car ownership in this customer group. Daimler could have identified decreasing sales among young urban professionals as a threat and developed Cartigo as an alternative way to gain revenue from these otherwise lost customers. The limitations of SWOT analysis. Although a SWOT analysis can identify important factors and situations that affect a firm, it only works as well as the person doing the analysis. SWOT can generate a good evaluation of the firm's internal and external environments, but it is more likely to overlook key issues because it is difficult to identify or imagine everything that could, for example, be a threat to the firm. That's why the remainder of this chapter will present tools for developing a strategic analysis that is more thorough and systematic in examining both the internal and external environments that firms operate in. Concept check. Explain the elements of a SWOT analysis. What information does a SWOT analysis provide managers? What information might it miss? What makes up a firm's external macro environment? and what tools do strategists use to understand it? The world at large forms the external environment for businesses. A firm must confront, adapt to, take advantage of, and defend itself against what is happening in the world around it to succeed. To make gathering and interpreting information about the external environment easier, strategic analysts have defined several general categories of activities and groups that managers should examine and understand. Exhibit 8. 4 illustrates layers and categories found in a firm's environment. A diagram shows the layers and categories in the environment of a firm. Exhibit 8. 4 components of a firm's environment attribution. Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC BY 40 license. A firm's macro environment contains elements that can impact the firm, but are generally beyond its direct control. These elements are characteristics of the world at large and are factors that all businesses must contend with, regardless of the industry they are in or type of business they are. In the Exhibit 8. 4. The macro environment is indicated in blue. Note that the terms contained in the blue ring are all big-picture items that exist independently of business activities. That is not to say that they do not affect firms or that firm activities cannot affect macro environmental elements. Both can and do happen, but firms are largely unable to directly change things in the macro environment. Strategists study the macro environment to learn about facts and trends that may present opportunities or threats to their firms. However, they do not usually just think in terms of SWOT. Strategists have developed more discerning tools to examine the external environment. PESTEL. PESTEL is a tool that reminds managers to look at several distinct categories in the macro environment. Like SWOT, PESTEL is an acronym. In this case, the letters represent the categories to examine: political factors, economic factors, sociocultural factors, technological factors, environmental factors, and legal factors. When using PESTEL to analyze a specific firm's situation, overlap between different categories of PESTEL factors can sometimes happen just as it can with SWOT. Remember our earlier example. When urban millennials decide that car ownership is no longer attractive, car manufacturers' sales are threatened. However, those same manufacturers might be able to adapt their sales methods to offer millennials car-sharing services, taking advantage of the opportunity to earn revenue from millennials who want access to cars for vacations or big shopping trips. PESTEL can also reveal multiple impacts from a single element in the external environment. For example, decreasing interest in car ownership among urban millennials would be a sociocultural trend. However, the technological connectedness of those same urban millennials is exactly what makes it possible for ride-sharing services such as Uber and Lyft to thrive. Their services are app-based and provide convenience both by connecting drivers and passengers quickly and by making transactions cashless. Exhibit 8. 5 illustrates the components of PESTEL, which will be discussed individually below. An illustration shows the components of the PESTEL model for external environmental analysis. Exhibit 8. 5. The PESTEL model for external environmental analysis. Attribution. Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC BY 40 license. Political factors. Political factors in the macro environment include taxation, tariffs, trade agreements, labor regulations, and environmental regulations. Note that in PESTEL, factors are not characterized as opportunities or threats. They are simply things that a firm can take advantage of or treat as problems, depending on its own interpretation or abilities. American Electric Power, a large company that generates and distributes electricity, may be negatively impacted by environmental regulations that restrict its ability to use coal to generate electricity because of pollution caused by burning coal. However, another energy firm has taken advantage of the government's interest in reducing coal emissions by developing a way to capture the emissions while producing power. The Petra Nova plant near Houston was developed by NRG and JX Nippon, who received Energy Department grants to help fund the project. 6. Although firms do not directly make government policy decisions, many industries and firms invest in lobbying efforts to try to influence government policy development to create opportunities or reduce threats. Economic factors. All firms are impacted by the state of the national and global economies. The increased interdependence of individual country economies has made evaluating the economic factors in a firm's macro environment more complex. Firms analyze economic indicators to make decisions about entering or exiting geographic markets, investing in expansion, and hiring or laying off employees. As discussed earlier in this chapter, employment rates impact the quantity, quality, and cost of employees available to firms. Interest rates impact sales of big-ticket items that consumers normally finance, such as appliances, cars, and homes. Interest rates also impact the cost of capital for firms that want to invest in expansion. Exchange rates present risks and opportunities to all firms that operate across national borders, and the price of oil impacts many industries, from airlines and transportation companies to solar panel producers and plastic recycling companies. Once again, any scenario can be a threat to one firm and an opportunity to another, so economic forces should not be assumed to be intrinsically good or bad. Sociocultural factors. Quite possibly, the largest category of macro-environmental factors an analyst might examine are sociocultural factors. This broad category encompasses everything from changing national demographics to fashion trends and many things in between. Demographics, a subset of this category, includes facts about income, education levels, age groups, and the ethnic and racial composition of a population. All of these facts present market challenges and possibilities. Firms can target products to specific market segments by studying the needs and preferences of demographic groups, such as working women. They might need daycare services but not watch daytime television. College students, who would be interested in affordable textbooks but couldn't afford to buy new cars. Or the elderly, who would be willing to pay for lawn mowing services but might not be interested in adventure tourism. Changes in people's values and interests are also included in this category. Environmental awareness has spurred demand for solar panels and electric and hybrid cars. A general interest in health and fitness has created industries in gyms, home gym equipment, and organic food. The popularity of social media has created an enormous demand for instant access to information and services, not to mention smartphones. Values and interests are constantly changing and vary from country to country, creating new market opportunities as well as communication challenges for companies trying to enter unfamiliar new markets. Technological factors. The rise of the internet may be the most disruptive technological change of the last century. The globe has become more interconnected and interdependent because of the fast, low-cost communications the internet provides. Customer service agents in India can serve customers in Kansas because technology has advanced to the point that the customer's account information can be instantly accessed by the service provider in India. Entrepreneurs around the world can reach customers anywhere through companies such as eBay, Alibaba, and Etsy, and they can get paid, regardless of their customer's currency, through PayPal. The internet has enabled Jeff Bezos, who started an online bookselling company called Amazon in 1994, to transform how consumers shop for goods. How else have technological factors impacted business? The internet is not the only technological advance that has transformed how businesses operate. Automation has increased efficiency for manufacturers. MRP, materials requirement planning, systems have changed how companies and their suppliers work together, and global positioning technology has helped construction engineers manage large projects more accurately. Consumers and firms have nearly unlimited access to information, and this access has empowered consumers to make more informed buying decisions and challenged firms to develop ways to analyze the large amounts of data their businesses generate. Environmental factors. The physical environment, which provides natural resources for manufacturing and energy production, has always been a key part of human business activity. As resources become scarcer and more expensive, environmental factors impact businesses more every day. Firms are developing technology to operate more cleanly and using fewer resources. Political pressure on businesses to reduce their impact on the natural environment has increased globally and dramatically in the 21st century. In 2017, London, Barcelona, and Paris announced their plans to ban cars with internal combustion engines over the next few decades in order to combat air quality issues. 7. This external environment category often overlaps with others in PESTEL because concern for the environment is also a sociocultural trend. As more consumers look for recycled products and buy electric and hybrid cars. On the political front, firms are facing increased regulation around the world on their carbon emissions and natural resource use. Although SWOT would characterize these factors as either opportunities or threats, PESTEL simply identifies them as aspects of the external environment that firms must consider when planning for their futures. Legal factors. Legal factors in the external environment often coincide with political factors because laws are enacted by government entities. This does not mean that the categories identify the same issues, however. Although labor laws and environmental regulations have deep political connections, other legal factors can impact business success. For example, in the streaming video industry, licensing fees are a significant cost for firms. Netflix pays billions of dollars every year to movie and television studios for the right to broadcast their content. In addition to the legal requirement to pay the studios, Netflix must consider that consumers may find illegal ways to view the movies they want to see, making them less willing to pay to subscribe to Netflix. Intellectual property rights and patents are major issues in the legal realm. Note that some external factors are difficult to categorize in PESTEL. For instance, tariffs can be viewed as either a political or economic factor, while the influence of the internet could be viewed as either a technological or social factor. While some issues can overlap two or more PESTEL areas, it does not diminish the value of PESTEL as an analytical tool. Concept check. Describe a firm's macro environment. What does PESTEL stand for? How do managers use PESTEL to understand their firm's macro environment? Ethics in practice. Sustainability and responsible management. Can Lego give up plastic? In 2012, the Lego Group first shared its ambition to find and implement sustainable alternatives to the current raw materials used to manufacture Lego products by 2030. The ambition is part of the Lego Group's work to reduce its environmental footprint and leave a positive impact on the planet our children will inherit. 8. Danish toy company Lego announced in 2015 that it would invest almost $160 million into its efforts to meet the goal it announced in 2012. You know Lego. They are the colored plastic bricks that snap together to make toys ranging from Harry Potter castles to Star Wars fighter craft. The family-owned company was founded in 1932 by Ole Kirk Christiansen and has since grown to be the world's #1 toy brand. 9. Given that Lego and plastic seem to go hand in hand, why would the company want to give up on the material that makes their toys so successful? Lego's manufacturing process relies on plastic to make highly precise plastic bricks that always fit together securely and easily. Replacing the plastic with another material that is durable, can be brightly colored, and can be molded as precisely is a difficult task. Lego's leadership has decided that a strategic position based on fossil fuels is not sustainable, and is making plans now to transition to a more environmentally friendly material to manufacture its products. Switching from oil-based plastic might make economic sense as well. Manufacturers who rely on petroleum-based products must weather volatile oil prices. Lego's raw materials costs could skyrocket overnight if the price of oil climbs again as it did in 2011. That price spike was due to conflict in Libya and other parts of the Arab world, something entirely beyond the control of any business. Technological innovations in bio-based plastics may be the answer for Lego 11, which is working with university researchers around the globe to find a solution to its carbon footprint problem. Sources: Trambik Roar Rude 2016. Lego Group to invest 1 billion DKK boosting search for sustainable materials. https://www.lego.com/ena/about/newsroom/2015/June/Sustainable Materials Center. Access July 29, 2017. Brand Finance 2017. Toys 25 2016. http Brand Finance. Com Images Upload Brand Finance Toys 25 2017 Report Locked. PDF Access July 29, 2017. Holodny Alina 2016. Timeline: The Tumultuous 155-Year History of Oil Prices. Business Insider. http://www. Business Insider. Com Timeline 155-Year History of Oil Prices 2016-12 Access July 29, 2017. And Peters, Adele, 2015. Why Lego is Spending Millions to Ditch Oil-Based Plastic. Fast Company. https://www. Fast Company. Com 3048017. Why Lego is Spending Millions to Ditch Oil-Based Plastic. Access July 29, 2017. Critical Thinking Questions. How would you approach this issue if you were the manager in charge of sourcing raw materials for Lego? How would PESTEL analysis inform your actions? What PESTEL challenges is Lego trying to address by changing the raw materials used in its products? Explain what favorable PESTEL factors support Lego's efforts. What makes up a firm's external microenvironment, and what tools do strategists use to understand it? A firm's microenvironment is illustrated in the green circle in Exhibit 8. 4. These entities are all directly connected to the firm in some way, and firms must understand the microenvironment in order to successfully compete in an industry. All firms are part of an industry, a group of firms all making similar products or offering similar services, for example, automobile manufacturers or airlines. Firms in an industry may or may not compete directly against one another, as we'll discuss shortly, but they all face similar situations in terms of customer interests, supplier relations, and industry growth or decline. Harvard strategy professor Michael Porter developed an analysis tool to evaluate a firm's microenvironment. Porter's 5 Forces is a tool used to examine different microenvironmental groups in order to understand the impact each group has on a firm in an industry. Exhibit 8. 6. Each of the forces represents an aspect of competition that affects a firm's potential to be successful in its industry. It is important to note that this tool is different than Porter's generic strategy typology that we will discuss later. A diagram shows Porter's 5 Forces model of industry competition. The 5 forces are industry rivalry, threat of new entrants, buyer power, threat of substitutes, supplier power. Exhibit 8. 6. Porter's 5 Forces model of industry competition. Attribution. Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC BY 40 license. Industry rivalry. The first of Porter's forces is in the center of the diagram. Note that the arrows in the diagram show two-way relationships between rivalry and all of the other forces. This is because each force can affect how hard firms in an industry must compete against each other to gain customers, establish favorable supplier relationships, and defend themselves against new firms entering the industry. When using Porter's model, an analyst will determine if each force has a strong or weak impact on industry firms. In the case of rivalry, the question of strength focuses on how hard firms must fight against industry rivals, competitors, to gain customers and market share. Strong rivalry in an industry reduces the profit potential for all firms because consumers have many firms from which to purchase products or services, and can make at least part of their purchasing decisions based on prices. An industry with weak rivalry will have few firms, meaning that there are enough customers for everyone, or will have firms that have each staked out a unique position in the industry, meaning that customers will be more loyal to the firm that best meets their particular needs. The threat of new entrants in an industry: there are incumbent, existing firms that compete against each other as rivals. If an industry has a growing market or is very profitable, however, it may attract new entrants. These either are firms that start up in the industry as new companies, or are firms from another industry that expand their capabilities or target markets to compete in an industry that is new to them. Different industries may be easier or harder to enter depending on barriers to entry, factors that prevent new firms from successfully competing in the industry. Common barriers to entry include cost, brand loyalty, and industry growth. For example, the firms in the airline industry rarely face threats from new entrants because it is very expensive to obtain the equipment, airport landing rights, and expertise to start up a new airline. Brand loyalty can also keep new firms from entering an industry because customers who are familiar with a strong brand name may be unwilling to try a new, unknown brand. Industry growth can increase or decrease the chances a new entrant will succeed. In an industry with low growth, new customers are scarce, and a firm can only gain market share by attracting customers of other firms. Think of all the ads you see and hear from competing cell phone providers. Cell phone companies are facing lower industry growth and must offer consumers incentives to switch from another provider. On the other hand, high-growth industries have an increasing number of customers, and new firms can successfully appeal to new customers by offering them something existing firms do not offer. It is important to note that barriers to entry are not always external. Firms often lobby politicians for regulations that can be a barrier to entry. These types of barriers will be covered in greater depth in more upper-level courses. Threat of substitutes in the context of Porter's model. A substitute is any other product or service that can satisfy the same need for a customer as an industry's offerings. Be careful not to confuse substitutes with rivals. Rivals offer similar products or services and directly compete with one another. Substitutes are completely different products or services that consumers would be willing to use instead of the product they currently use. For example, the fast food industry offers quickly prepared, convenient, low-cost meals. Customers can go to McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, or Taco Bell. All of these firms compete against each other for business. However, their customers are really just hungry people. What else could you do if you were hungry? You could go to the grocery store and buy food to prepare at home. McDonald's does not directly compete against Kroger for customers because they are in different industries, but McDonald's does face a threat from grocery stores because they both sell food. How does McDonald's defend itself from the threat of Kroger as a substitute? By making sure their food is already prepared and convenient to purchase. Your burger or salad is ready to eat and available without even getting out of your car. A photo shows a McDonald's drive-through menu put outside the restaurant. The pages of the menu are shown placed in a large lit-up glass display case. Exhibit 8. 7 McDonald's A drive-through menu at this McDonald's is designed to help customers choose their meal quickly and have it ready for pickup at the drive-through window. Credit. Carib/Flickr/public domain. Supplier power. Virtually all firms have suppliers who sell parts, materials, labor, or products. Supplier power refers to the balance of power in the relationship between firms and their suppliers in an industry. Suppliers can have the upper hand in a relationship if they offer specialized products or control rare resources. For example, when Sony develops a new PlayStation model, it often works with a single supplier to develop the most advanced processor chip it can for their game console. That means its supplier will be able to command a fairly high price for the processors, an indication that the supplier has power. On the other hand, a firm that needs commodity resources such as oil, wheat, or aluminum in its operations will have many suppliers to choose from and can easily switch suppliers if price or quality is better from a new partner. Commodity suppliers usually have low power. Buyer power. The last of Porter's forces is buyer power, which refers to the balance of power in the relationship between a firm and its customers. If a firm provides a unique good or service, it will have the power to charge its customers premium prices, because those customers have no choice but to buy from the firm if they need that product. In contrast, when customers have many potential sources for a product, firms will need to attract customers by offering better prices or better value for the money if they want to sell their products. One protection firms have against buyer power is switching costs, the penalty consumers face when they choose to use a particular product made by a different company. Switching costs can be financial, the extra price paid to choose a different product, or practical, the time or hassle required to switch to a different product. For example, think about your smartphone. If you have an iPhone now, what would be the penalty for you to switch to a non-Apple smartphone? Would it just be the cost of the new phone? Smartphones are not inexpensive, but even when cell phone service providers offer free phones to new customers, many people still don't switch. The loss of compatibility with other Apple products, the need to transfer apps and phone settings to another system, and the loss of favorite iPhone features, such as iMessage, are enough to keep many people loyal to their iPhones. Concept check. Describe each of Porter's 5 forces. What information does each provide a manager trying to understand her firm's micro-environment? How and why do managers conduct an internal analysis of their firms? A firm's internal environment is illustrated in Exhibit 8.4 by the innermost orange circle. The internal environment consists of members of the firm itself, investors in the firm, and the assets a firm has. Employees and managers are good examples. They are firm members who have skills and knowledge that are valuable assets to their firms. Evaluating a firm's internal environment is not just a matter of counting heads, however. Successful firms have a wide range of resources and capabilities that they can use to maintain their success and grow into new ventures. A thorough analysis of a firm's internal situation provides a manager with an understanding of the resources available to pursue new initiatives, innovate, and plan for future success. Resources and capabilities. A firm's resources and capacities are the unique skills and assets it possesses. Resources are things a firm has to work with, such as equipment, facilities, raw materials, employees, and cash. Capabilities are things a firm can do, such as deliver good customer service or develop innovative products to create value. Both are the building blocks of a firm's plans and activities, and both are required if a firm is going to compete successfully against its rivals. Firms use their resources and leverage their capabilities to create products and services that have some advantage over competitors' products. For example, a firm might offer its customers a product with higher quality, better features, or lower prices. Not all resources and capabilities are equally helpful in creating success, though. Internal analysis identifies exactly which assets bring the most value to the firm. The value chain before examining the role of resources and capabilities in firm success. Let's take a look at the importance of how a firm uses those factors in its operations. A firm's value chain is the progression of activities it undertakes to create a product or service that consumers will pay for. A firm should be adding value at each of the chain of steps it follows to create its product. The goal is for the firm to add enough value so that its customers will believe that the product is worth buying for a price that is higher than the costs the firm incurs in making it. As an example, Exhibit 8. 8 illustrates a hypothetical value chain for some of Walmart's activities. A diagram illustrates a hypothetical value chain for some of Walmart's activities. Exhibit 8. 8 a value chain example attribution. Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC BY 40 license. In this example, note that value increases from left to right as Walmart performs more activities. If it adds enough value through its efforts, it will profit when it finally sells its services to customers. By working with product suppliers' procurement, getting those products to store locations efficiently, inbound logistics, and automatically keeping track of sales and inventory information technology, Walmart is able to offer its customers a wide variety of products in one store at low prices, a service customers value. Primary activities, the ones across the bottom half of the diagram, are the actions a firm takes to directly provide a product or service to customers. Support activities, the ones across the top of the diagram, are actions required to sustain the firm that are not directly part of product or service creation. Using resources and capabilities to build an advantage over rivals. A firm's resources and capabilities are not just a list of equipment and things it can do. Instead, resources and capabilities are the distinctive assets and activities that separate firms from each other. Firms that can amass critical resources and develop superior capabilities will succeed in competition over rivals in their industry. Strategists evaluate firm resources and capabilities to determine if they are sufficiently special to help the firm succeed in a competitive industry. Using VRIO, the analytical tool used to assess resources and capabilities, is called VRIO. As usual, this is an acronym developed to remind managers of the questions to ask when evaluating their firm's resources and capabilities. The 4 questions of VRIO, which focus on value, rarity, imitation, and organization, are illustrated in Exhibit 8. 9. An illustration shows the VRIO process. The 4 questions of VRIO focus on value, rarity, imitation, and organization. Exhibit 8. 9 VRIO, a tool for evaluating firm resources and capabilities attribution. Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC BY 40 license. If each question can be answered with a yes, then the resource or capability being evaluated can be the source of a competitive advantage for the firm. An example will help you better understand the VRIO process. Imagine that you are a top manager for Starbucks and you want to understand why you are able to be successful against rivals in the coffee industry. You make a list of some of Starbucks' resources and capabilities and use VRIO to determine which ones are key to your success. These are shown in Table 8.1. Starbucks, resources and capabilities. Resources, capabilities, brand name, making quality coffee, drinks thousands of locations, worldwide, delivering excellent customer service. Cash, training excellent staff, loyal customers, paying above-average wages, well-trained employees, retaining quality employees. Table 8. 1. Attribution. Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC BY 40 license. You look at your list and decide to pick a few of the entries to evaluate with VRIO. Table 8.2. Evaluating Starbucks. VRIO resource capability. Is it valuable? Is it rare? Is it difficult to imitate? Is Starbucks organized to capture its value? Can it be a basis for competitive advantage? Brand name. Yes, 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 yes. Delivering excellent customer service. Yes, 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 yes. Thousands of locations worldwide. Yes, no, no, yes, no. Table 8.2. Attribution. Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC BY 40 license. According to the evaluation above, Starbucks brand helps it compete and succeed against rivals, as does its excellent customer service. However, simply having a lot of locations globally isn't enough to beat rivals. McDonald's and Subway also have thousands of worldwide locations, and both serve coffee. Starbucks succeeds against them because of their brand and customer service. Concept check: what are firm resources and capabilities? Describe a value chain and what the activities in the chain represent. What is VRIO? What questions do the letters stand for, and how does using VRIO help a manager make decisions? Managing change, technology, and innovation. Uber, Lyft, and the self-driving car. The transportation of the future is coming soon, although the ride-sharing industry is still relatively new. It has seen explosive growth, and its two main rivals, Uber and Lyft, are looking for ways to increase their capacity to serve riders. Both firms and rivals like them operate in basically the same way. A person needing a ride uses a smartphone app to alert a nearby person with a car of their location. The driver, usually an independent contractor for the service, meaning they are just a person with a car that has signed up to provide rides in exchange for a portion of the fare the customer pays, picks up the customer, and drives them to their destination. Paying for the ride is also handled through the app, and the driver receives about 75–80% of the fare, with Uber or Lyft keeping the balance. 12. A photo shows an Uber sign indicating Uber's pickup spot at Pierre Elliott Trudeau Airport in Montreal. Exhibit 8. 10. Rideshare pickup area. The rideshare pickup area at Pierre Elliott Trudeau Airport in Montreal. Due to the popularity of ride-sharing with companies such as Uber and Lyft, municipalities and airports have had to accommodate the changing demands of customers. Credit: Quinn Dombrowski/Flickr/Attribution Share Alike 2. Generic CC BY C20. The popularity of ride-sharing services has soared, and both companies are constantly recruiting more drivers. However, both companies have also explored alternatives to independent drivers, self-driving cars. Uber and Lyft have taken different paths to develop this capability. Uber has worked to internally develop its own software technology and self-driving car technology, while Lyft has focused on software interfaces that can accommodate other companies' self-driving cars. 13. Lyft's partnerships with firms such as Google and GM that are already developing self-driving cars has put it ahead of Uber in the race to get driverless vehicles into its ride-sharing network. And it was able to test self-driving cars in Boston by partnering with Nutonomy in 2017. 14. Lyft offered a demonstration to journalists at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in 2018, offering rides in self-driving cars developed by Aptiv. 15. Uber had been testing similar technology in Pittsburgh, but suspended its self-driving car program after a fatal pedestrian accident in Arizona. 16. Sources: Ridester, 2017. How much do Uber drivers actually make? The Inside Scoop. Ridester.com, https://www.ridester.com/how much do Uber drivers make /access July 29, 2017. Bensinger, Greg, 2017. Lyft shifts gears with new driverless car division. San Francisco company to hire hundreds of engineers and open new Silicon Valley office. The Wall Street Journal. July 21, 2017. Edelstein, Stephen, 2017. Lyft finally launches its Boston self-driving car pilot program. The Drive, Deck, 17, 2017. http://www.thedrive.com/tech/16779/ Lyft finally launches its Boston self-driving car pilot program. O'Kane, Sean, 2018. I took a gamble by riding in a self-driving Lyft in Las Vegas. The Verge, January 8, 2018. www. The Verge. com slash 2018 slash 1 slash 8 slash 16,860,590 slash self-driving lift Las Vegas CES 2018. And Korosuk, Kristen, 2018. Uber self-driving cars back on public roads but in manual mode TechCrunch. July 24, 2018. https TechCrunch. com slash 2018 slash 07 slash 24 slash Uber self-driving cars back on public roads but in manual mode slash. Critical thinking questions what resource or capability challenges have Uber and Lyft faced because their fast company growth. What PESTEL factors do you think are contributing to the popularity of ride-sharing services? What industry challenges, think of Porter's 5 forces, does the use of self-driving cars address? What does it mean to compete with other firms in a business environment? What does it mean when a firm has a competitive advantage over its rivals? And what generic strategies can a firm implement to gain advantage over its rivals? Now that you understand more about the environment that businesses operate in, let's take a deeper look at exactly how they operate. Businesses exist to make profits by offering goods and services in the marketplace at prices that are higher than the costs they incurred creating those goods and services. Businesses rarely exist alone in an industry. Competition is usually a key part of any marketplace. This means that businesses must find ways to attract customers to their products and away from competitors' products. Strategy is the process of planning and implementing actions that will lead to success in competition. The analytical tools we discuss here are part of the strategic planning process. Managers cannot successfully plan to compete in an industry if they don't understand its competitive landscape. It is also unlikely that a firm planning to launch a new product they are not equipped to make will be successful. Competition Porter's 5 forces model is centered around rivalry, a synonym for competition. In any industry, multiple firms compete against each other for customers by offering better or cheaper products than their rivals. Firms use PESTEL to understand what consumers are interested in, and use VRIO to evaluate their own resources and capabilities, so that they can figure out how to offer products and services that match those consumer interests, and that are better in quality and price than the products offered by their competitors. A firm is described as having a competitive advantage when it successfully attracts more customers, earns more profit, or returns more value to its shareholders than rival firms do. A firm achieves a competitive advantage by adding value to its products and services, or reducing its own costs more effectively than its rivals in the industry. Generic business-level competitive strategies. When discussing business strategy, a business is a firm or a unit of a firm that centers its activities around one primary type of product or service line. Business-level strategy is the general way that a business organizes its activities to compete against rivals in its product's industry. Michael Porter, the same Harvard professor who developed the 5 forces model, defined 3 generic business-level strategies that outline the basic methods of organizing to compete in a product market. He called the strategies generic because these ways of organizing can be used by any firm in any industry. Cost leadership. When pursuing a cost leadership strategy, a firm offers customers its product or service at a lower price than its rivals can. To achieve a competitive advantage over rivals in the industry, the successful cost leader tightly controls costs throughout its value chain activities. Supplier relationships are managed to guarantee the lowest prices for parts. Manufacturing is conducted in the least expensive labor markets, and operations may be automated for maximum efficiency. A cost leader must spend as little as possible producing a product or providing a service, so that it will still be profitable when selling that product or service at the lowest price. Walmart is the master of cost leadership, offering a wide variety of products at lower prices than competitors because it does not spend money on fancy stores. It extracts low prices from its suppliers, and it pays its employees relatively low wages. Differentiation: not all products or services in the marketplace are offered at low prices, of course. A differentiation strategy is exactly the opposite of a cost leadership strategy. While firms do not look to spend as much as possible to produce their output, firms that differentiate try to add value to their products and services so they can attract customers who are willing to pay a higher price. At each step in the value chain, the differentiator increases the quality, features, and overall attractiveness of its products or services. Research and development efforts focus on innovation, customer service is excellent, and marketing bolsters the value of the firm brand. These efforts guarantee that the successful differentiator can still profit even though its production costs are higher than a cost leader's. Starbucks is a good example of a differentiator. It makes coffee, but its customers are willing to pay premium prices for a cup of Starbucks coffee because they value the restaurant atmosphere, customer service, product quality, and brand. Porter's typology assumes that firms can succeed through either cost leadership or differentiation. Trying to combine these two, Porter suggests, can lead to a firm being stuck in the middle. Porter's third generic competitive strategy, focus, is a little different from the other two. A firm that focuses still must choose one of the other strategies to organize its activities. It will still strive to lower costs or add value. The difference here is that a firm choosing to implement a focus strategy will concentrate its marketing and selling efforts on a smaller market than a broad cost leader or differentiator. A firm following a focus differentiation strategy, for example, will add value to its product or service that a few customers will value highly, either because the product is specifically suited to a particular use, or because it is a luxury product that few can afford. For example, Flux is a company that offers custom-made bindings for your snowboard. Flux is a focus differentiator because it makes a specialized product that is valued by a small market of customers who are willing to pay premium prices for high-quality, customized snowboarding equipment. A photo shot from the above shows a snowboard featuring Flux premium bindings. Exhibit 8. 11 snowboard bindings. The Flux premium bindings on this snowboard are an example of a product on a focus-driven company. Snowboard bindings are the only products Flux markets. Credit: Ted and Danny Percival /Flickr attribution 2 generic CC by 20. Strategic groups: when managers analyze their competitive environment and examine rivalry within their industry, they are not confronted by an infinite variety of competitors. Although there are millions of businesses of all sizes around the globe, a single business usually competes mainly against other businesses offering similar products or services and following the same generic competitive strategy. Groups of businesses that follow similar strategies in the same industry are called strategic groups, and it is important that a manager know the other firms in their strategic group. Rivalry is fiercest within a strategic group, and the actions of one firm in a group will elicit responses from other group members who don't want to lose market share in the industry. Take a look at Exhibit 8. 12. Although all of the firms shown are in the retail industry, they don't all compete directly against one another. A diagram shows the strategic groups present in the retail industry. Exhibit 8. 12 strategic groups in the retail industry. Attribution: Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC BY 40 license. Although some cross-competition can occur, for example, you could buy a Kate Spade wallet at Nordstrom. Firms in different strategic groups tend to compete more with each other than against firms outside their group. Although Walmart and Neiman Marcus both offer a wide variety of products, the two firms do not cater to the same customers, and their managers do not lose sleep at night wondering what each might do next. On the other hand, a Walmart manager would be concerned with the products or prices offered at Target. If laundry detergent is on sale at Target, The Walmart manager might lose sales from customers who buy it at Target instead. And so, the Walmart manager might respond to Target's sale price by discounting the same detergent at Walmart. Concept check: what is competition? And what is the role of strategy in competition? When does a firm have a competitive advantage over its rivals? Explain the differences between the three business-level generic competitive strategies. What elements go into determining a firm's strategic position? A manager who has done all of the analysis described so far in this chapter has some decisions to make based on all of the information the analysis has revealed. A firm's decisions on how to serve customers and compete against rivals is called strategic positioning. In order to develop its position, a firm combines its understanding of the competitive environment, including the firm's own resources and capabilities, its industry situation, and facts about the macro environment. A strategic position includes a choice of generic competitive strategy, which a firm selects based on its own capabilities and in response to the positions already staked out by its industry rivals. The firm also determines which customers to serve and what those customers are willing to pay for. A strategic position also includes decisions about what geographic markets to participate in. Most importantly, a firm's strategic position should try to be unique in some way that competitors cannot imitate quickly or easily. Competitive advantage is achieved when a firm attracts more customers or makes more profit than rivals. This cannot happen unless the firm organizes its activities to provide customers with better value than rivals. Concept check: how does strategic analysis help a firm develop its own strategic position?